The Senior Rehab Project is supported by the Game Changers, a group of motivated rehab clinicians that are crushing mediocrity and advancing care for older adults. You can join this group of people and get access to the private Facebook group, the monthly meetup with article discussions, and have a say in the direction of this movement. Get off the sidelines and get involved. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com/Game Changers. Hit me!
This is a Senior Rehab Podcast, the podcast for rehab clinicians that want to better serve older adults.
Hello, friends. I hope this finds you doing very well. I hope you had a lovely Christmas, and I hope you're going to have a wonderful New Year. Stay safe out there. But this episode is the recording from the December monthly meetup. That's a group of amazing clinicians, the Game Changers, that are a part of the Senior Rehab Project. We have our own private Facebook group, and we hop on a call to discuss a pertinent article that can hopefully, help improve our ability to serve our patients. This month, we talked about benefits of resistance training in physically frail elderly, a systematic review. We're going to get to that in a second, but I wanted to mention we're making a change into how you can become involved in the Senior Rehab Project. So there's going to be three options. So there's a free option, so the free club, and you just go to seniorrehabproject.com. You put in your email address, and you will get an access into the big Senior Rehab Project Facebook group, which is over 1,000 clinicians strong all over the world. Day in and day out, people are sharing helpful resources, sharing tough cases that they may have, and you're able to get comments from some of the smartest people in the business. I mean, we have people that literally wrote the book for geriatrics in this group answering someone's question. Just think about that. I know for me, it's just mind-blowing that I, as a home health PT, I can go on and type a question, and I may get Dale Avers to answer, or Bill Staples, or, just there's just tons of people that are very, very knowledgeable that literally wrote the books on the profession that will answer your questions, which is amazing. You'll also get the free Geriatric PT Essentials PDF. So that's just quick PDF, the 4 essential points to just being an awesome geriatric PT. And those were collected by the Game Changers group. So the next level up is the coffee club. So you'll get all the benefits of the free club, but then you're going to get a special coffee mug sent right to your door. So we have designed a coffee mug that says redefine old. And the word old is comprised of several smaller words that we are trying to get people to associate with age. And that's wisdom, strength, resilience. A lot of these words that we talk about here at SRP, and you can be reminded of that as you sip your cup of coffee in the morning. You'll also be featured on seniorrehabproject.com. We're going to have a special about page where the people that are involved in that will be featured on the website. And then lastly, we have the Game Changers. So you'll get in the free Facebook group, you'll get the Geriatric PT Essentials. Instead of a coffee mug, you're going to get an Old Not Weak t-shirt sent right to your door. You'll be featured on the Senior Rehab Project's website. But then most importantly, and the big value is the access to the monthly meetups. You'll get access to all these different clinicians. You can read an article and you can bring your thoughts and your critiques and your lessons learned and discuss them with people from, all over the world. So it's a pretty cool opportunity. You'll also be able to influence the direction of SRP, as we definitely look to that group, to vote on different topics and ask you all questions on how we can do our work better. So go to seniorrehabproject.com. You will see kind of that option clearly laid out. But if you listen to this podcast, you need to get involved in some way, shape, or form. Just highly encourage it, because you're only getting maybe 15% of the value that SRP can provide if all you do is listen to the audio. So go to seniorrehabproject.com. See which one you'd want to do. You got the free club, you got the coffee club, which is about $5 a month, and you have the Game Changers, which is $9.99 a month. So all definitely worth the value from my perspective and several others that I've talked to about this. So I'm definitely confident that it will be able to serve you well. So without further ado, December's monthly meetup, where they are discussing resistance training in the frail elderly.
Hello, welcome to the Senior Rehab Project. This is Troy Mead. I'm filling in for Dustin Jones on our December monthly meetup. We got the Game Changers here, and today we're talking about the benefits of resistance training in physically elderly, a systematic review. And as the title alludes to, this is a systematic review of the effect of resistance training on elderly frail. They reviewed the effect of resistance training alone or combined. The results that they concluded is that they observed that resistance training alone or in a multimodal training may induce increases of 6.6 to 37% in maximal strength. It may increase muscle mass, muscle power, and functional capacity, and the risk of falls. With a frequency of 1 to 6 sessions per week, a training with of 1 to 3 sets of 6 to 15 repetitions, and an intensity of 30 to 70% of 1 rep max. So with the discussion, we found a lot of limitations and a lot of limitations and a lot of issues with the article that we'd like to discuss. To start us off, Tally, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I had some issues with the article. Like part of them are with the review itself, and part of it is with some of the articles in the review. The review is the RCTs that are being reviewed. For me, the two things that bothered me about some of the RCTs, that a few of them didn't have any functional outcome measurements. They had, let's say, only speed gauge, and some of them only had muscle strength and muscle power as an outcome for frailty, which not necessarily say anything about someone being frail. The second thing, if we're going into muscle strength and muscle power, a lot of muscle group were measured with handheld dynamometer. The problem was that they measured rectus femoris, they measured other knee extensors, they measured knee flexors, abductors, but none of them measured hip extensors, which are I think that we can all agree is, if not the most important muscle group for our older frail people, is definitely one of the top 3.
Excellent observation. Celeste, did you have anything to add?
I think the biggest thing that stood out to me in the discussion, they talked about the studies that evaluated muscle mass, and they said some of them showed improvement, compared it to the repetition max, and then said the ones that used the RPE didn't have any changes, but they did not go into that at all, and they didn't mention it anywhere else in this study and I would hate to see people not use the RPE because it's a good tool.
Thank you. Excellent. That's a very good observation as well. Meg, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Celeste, on the RPE issue. That just because the studies that use the percentage of 1 repetition maximum seem to report better outcomes than the studies that used RPE, didn't really analyze that in any greater detail. There could have been many other differences in those studies in the research design as well. So I wouldn't I'm with you. I'm not going to abandon RPE based on this one relatively poor quality paper. Okay, so back to the other issue that I was a bit confused about is they're talking about reducing falls incidence with resistance training, which first and foremost, if you're going to propose that resistance training significantly impacts falls incidence, that's a pretty big call to make, given that the most recent systematic review and meta-analysis on the exercise interventions in reducing falls rates in older adults suggests that strength training doesn't really have a huge impact, that it's a good addition to a balanced intervention, but that it's not necessarily like the core powerful exercise intervention. in reducing falls. So I thought they should probably have acknowledged that systematic review first and talked about it, but it does not even appear anywhere in the literature. And the one I'm referring to is the Sherrington et al. 2016, and that was published in November 2016, I think. So give them like a year to find it and refer to it in this before they publish this one. The falls incidents that they do refer to here, they say very, very little about it. 4 studies assessed falls incidents. 3 studies have found significant reductions after 12 weeks, while 1 study has found no differences after 12 weeks. And that's all they really mention. They go on somewhere else to say, basically, this review included studies that use different instruments to assess incidence of falls as recordatory, ABC scale, and falls self-efficacy, presenting significant improvements. However, questionnaire evaluations such as the ABC scale and falls self-efficacy may present a lower sensibility for identifying eventual falls and perhaps limiting this variable, which is, to me, no duh. And then also one study by Cador and others, which was an RCT included in this, demonstrated significant improvements because of the falls absence reported during the intervention. So based on observed results, we suggest that resistance training combined with balance and gait exercise reduce falls incidence, and besides be a safety and tolerable intervention for frailty. So to me, it looks like they're saying that resistance training reduces falls rate simply because people during that 12-week intervention did not fall. So that's a pretty sketchy measure of impact on falls, if ever I've heard one. And the other measures that they're talking about, the ABC scale and falls efficacy scale, they haven't gone on to quantify the effects or mention how they're measured or what the follow-up period was. So I just don't think there's anything there that I can hang my hat on to say that this has added any value to me or will change my clinical practice.
I think we all agree with that. Very well stated.
Rant over.
Aaron, do you have anything to add or any positives, any negatives and positives?
Do you have anything positive to say?
I do have something.
There's got to be something. Mine for the gold, Cokes. Mine for the gold.
There is something positive to be said about this article. As it limps away bleeding from the stab wounds Meg just gave it. So I know many others, no one here, of course, but, mostly me, will look at the title of an article, read the abstract maybe, and then just kind of move on from there and go about my day. I guess Tali does as well. And I feel like this article is an excellent example of why you should not do that. Because on the surface, you read it and you're like, wow, this looks really interesting. And it could give me some good information. But between the shady outcome measures and the sloppy literature review and the weird suggestions, I don't think it's this just demonstrates how important it is to take time to go through the source material and really dive in and see where they're making their conclusions from. So that's what I have to say about that. That is a good thing.
Hear, hear.
I think that's a great way to sum it up. Right. I think it comes back to something that you said earlier, and I think it was actually stated in the U13 conference or something like that, U13 conference, that frailty is the wild, wild west of geriatrics.
Yes, indeed.
Do you think it's worth maybe just explicitly reading the conclusion so that the people listening can understand just how vague the conclusions drawn were and why we can't really take much from it?
The results were that the initial search identified 371 studies and 16 were used for quantitative analysis for describing the effect of strength training performed alone or in multimodal exercise interventions. We observed that resistance training alone in a multimodal training may induce increases of 6.6 to 37%, maximal strength 3.4 to 7.5 in muscle mass, 8.2 in muscle power, 4.7 to 58.1 in functional capacity. Risk of falls although some studies do not show enhancements. And the overall conclusion was that a frequency of 1 to 6 sessions per week, a training volume of 1 to 3 sets of 6 to 15 repetitions, and an intensity of 30 to 70% of 1 rep max promoted significant enhancements on muscle strength, muscle power, and functional outcomes. Therefore, in agreement with the previous studies, we suggest that supervised and controlled resistance training represents an effective intervention in frailty treatment.
So about the results, like the ranges are ridiculous, as we can all agree. But it's definitely, like, I would say it's definitely not the reviewer's fault. Like the review,
Right.
as a reviewer, you need to report what you found in a review. But what I do blame them is the conclusion, because with those results, the conclusion is, you know what? There are differences. It was inconclusive. But I cannot do something. I cannot write frequency of 1 to 2 sessions per week, and
1 to 6.
1 to 6. Yeah.
Anywhere between 1 and 6. So you can just do it on a Monday, or you could do it Monday to Saturday every day.
Whatever. When you have time, like it's not feeding a cat.
You could do 1 set, or you can come back and do 2 more sets as well, and it could be 6 times 15 repetitions, and just
Doesn't matter.
Anywhere between 1/3 and like 2/3 of your maximum strength, just whatever.
It's basically saying to clinicians and old people, do whatever you want. Something will will be okay.
Something will work.
And if you don't fall in that 12 weeks, then clearly it was it's effective in reducing.
It's a good intervention.
Clearly.
It feels bad though, because like all of us here, we are all proponents of resistance training. Like, even what I just said about it and its impact on falls not being clear, doesn't mean that I poo-poo resistance training by any means. I use it all the time. It's just that these parameters that they've given us and the evidence that they say substantiates it, it just doesn't stack up in any sensible dimension.
Oh, it doesn't give power to the resistance training in the way that's most effective, as when you prescribe it like medication.
Correct.
I feel that it doesn't give resistance training the respect that it needs.
Yeah. So what studies do give it the respect that, like, what do you hang your hat on? Like, I think of the white paper. Was it Dale Ava's white paper on strength training in older adults? That was pretty profound.
I don't have anything in mind right now, like that I remember the offer and when it was published. Mm-hmm. I did read a lot of research, and 2 that stuck were the influence of resistance training on self-efficacy in older adults, and about self-efficacy and the relation to fear from falls. So I'm definitely. I don't think I'll ever do a session without doing even a little bit of resistance training.
Yeah, I agree. But then when we're doing just a little bit of resistance training, are we underdosing, and are we therefore wasting that time that could have been used towards an intervention where we would have actually scaled it appropriately and gotten into a therapeutic window? You know what I mean? Sometimes less is more. Like, do it well or don't do it at all. Sometimes and so I want parameters that I can say, yeah, this is what I need to do in order to affect change, and I'm stuffing around doing any less than that. But 1 to 6 sessions a week, 30 to 70% intensity, 1 to 3 sets. It's just not. You're not helping me here, people. Like, throw me a bone.
Nothing I can use.
No, yeah. Right. So I think that white paper on strength training for the older adult by Dale Avers in 2009 is probably still like a big winner for me. But also, if we look at like oldnotweak.com, like that which redirects to a part of the Senior Rehab Project Facebook page. I haven't visited it lately. Maybe Justin's changed it, but when I did look at it, it had a whole heap of of articles that was supporting resistance training with older people and had far better evidence behind them than this particular study.
So I think the conclusion of the meetup is that the article was inconclusive. It wasn't powerful enough to change practice, and that there's more powerful articles out there that can help direct how you prescribe resistance training.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah.
Yay. Merry Christmas.
And we'll see you all on the next one.
Yeah.
And until then, don't forget to
Stay funky.
Hit me. Thank you for listening to the Senior Rehab Podcast. If you only listen to these podcast episodes, you are missing out on 90% of the Senior Rehab Project. Hop on over to seniorrehabproject.com where you can join the movement that's advancing care for older adults. You can join for free or become a part of the Game Changers where you can get some free gear and access to our monthly meetup. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com. I appreciate y'all, and I'll talk with you soon. But in the meantime, do not forget to stay funky.